Hello cardboarders, welcome back. Tarkir spoiler seasons have already started and we get another creature that we're allowed to put into our decks without any restrictions in regards to number. But before we look at the card, let's look at the very brief history. Up until now we had 8 cards that had the same effect of being able to put any number of cards with the same name into our decks, starting with Relentless Rats back in 5th Dawn. Then we got another rat called Rat Colony. Then we got another black card called Shadowborn Apostle, which probably is the most popular in my opinion, focusing on more of a demon style deck. We went to red with sorceries, in Strixhaven with Dragon's Approach. Then we got a mill card with the blue persistent partitioners, and then we ramped up the pace, and last year 2024 we got 3 more cards that allowed us to put any number of these cards into our decks. With Slime Against Humanity, where I did a whole video on that card when this card was spoiled back then with many deck ideas, which we're also going to do today. Templar Knight in the Assassin's Creed set, which was the first white one, finishing the cycle of all 5 colors, but that didn't stop Wizards to create more. We got Heir Apparent with the, if you want to call them, Relentless Rabbits. And now lastly, the spoiler of today from the new upcoming Tarkir set, Tempest Hawk for 3. So 2 and a white, you get a 2/2 bird creature with flying obviously, and whenever this creature deals combat damage we may search for another Tempest Hawk and put it into our hand from our deck. And again, we can have any number of Tempest Hawks in our deck. Today's plan will be to look at 10 different decks and some inspiration of cards that I looked up to put into the one or the other deck, depending on the color restriction that you're building. We're starting out with 6 cards I think that are, in my opinion, no-brainers, that I would put in any of the 10 decks depending on the restrictions you're putting onto yourself. We also got the one or the other pauper deck if you wanted to build one, so keep that in mind. None of these 6 that I name you could put into a PEDH deck. And obviously the very first card that comes to mind that you would put into any of the Relentless decks is the Thrumming Stone, which allows Ripple 4 for those who don't know if you cast a spell of these Relentless types, so in this case Tempest Hawk. You look at the top 4 cards, maybe you find another spell that has the same name, and if you do, you may cast it again, and then you ripple through your deck actually, and might be able to cast through your entire deck depending on how many Tempest Hawks you put in there. I'd say, as a rule of thumb, normally you want to go with like 30 plus or minus a couple, just to be able to always have at least 1 if not 2 in your starting hand, and being able to actually ripple through your deck with Thrumming Stone, getting all your birds out. Now that we have this out of the way, next up, more interestingly in my opinion, Ascent to Avernus. For X and 3 white, you return all creatures and planeswalkers with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield and exile this spell. So normally you would just pay 6 and get all your dead hogs back onto the battlefield, which I find a very beautiful reanimation spell. Now some of you might love birds and love Stormcrow, and here's Murmuration for you, which not only boosts your birds and gives them vigilance, but also for each spell that you cast this turn you get a 1/2 blue bird token named Stormcrow with flying. And this is just beautiful, and many of these deck ideas will focus on bird type, and this is why I would include this enchantment in any of the 10 decks, excluding pauper decks obviously. 3 ramp cards that I think are just very helpful is the Pearl Medallion at first, which just reduces our Tempest Hawks to just 2 mana. Ketros Monument as well, if you have both out, only 1 mana for your Tempest Hawks. And you also get 1/1 white warrior vigilance creature tokens whenever you cast one of your hawks. And lastly, before we look at the decks, we got the Immortal Sun, which also reduces all your spells by 1, boosts your creatures, gives you an additional draw during your draw step, and deactivates planeswalkers generally. Now, first up, we have Derevi, which is a bird itself and allows the brutal effect of whenever a creature of yours deals damage to a player, you untap or tap any permanent. And Derevi always costs 4 since you can just pay 4 and put it onto the battlefield from the command zone, which makes him quite a strong commander. Generally what you want to put in there is Delny for the ability to just be kind of unblockable, triggering your Hawks, double Toski to just draw more cards whenever your birds go through, and maybe Flurry of Wings for some more bird tokens equal to the amount of attacking creatures. Now this Derevi deck could also include Kastral, the Wind Crested, as a secret commander if you want to go that route, but it could also be a general commander himself. If you want to play Kastral as a secret commander, keep in mind Derevi can also untap lands, can just go bonkers, bonk with all your birds, the birds that actually die, Kastral can reanimate, and you can just untap the lands to cast even more birds out of your hand to go for just some crazy gameplays. If you build a Kastral deck itself, I would put as a card draw obviously cards like Enduring Curiosity to be able to draw more and more cards whenever your birds deal damage, and this is what this deck obviously wants to do. As more ramp, we can use the Warden of Evos Isle and the Red Tomb Mystic to give our Hawks cycling if we don't need them, while Kastral can just reanimate them out of the graveyard with a finality counter on it. Next up, Mono White, if you want to stay in white, Sephara Sky's Blade, which can be paid for by the Hawks if you tap them because they're flying, and all your birds have indestructible. Here you could, for example, go the token route as well with Spirit Bonds, being able to also get some spirit tokens that are also flying, and the Emeria Angel to get more birds out whenever you play lands, while the Welcoming Vampire is there for steady card draw. Now let's go back to homelands with Soraya the Falconer. Soraya says all falcons get +1/+1, but was errata to birds. All birds get +1/+1, and target bird can gain banding. Now banding is a very unique and a little complicated ability for some people, but bear with me. The idea is that you can attack or block in a band. You have, for example, one bird that you give banding, and then it can, when it attacks or blocks, block together with another creature that has no banding. So they're seen as kind of one, and then you're allowed to deal the damage to any of your creatures when you block or attack, and not your opponent's creature. And this, for example, can be used tactically with Commander Eesha, for example, who already has protection from creatures, so it can just block, but by banding you can deal even more damage with your other creatures and focusing the damage from your opponent onto Commander Eesha. I'd also put Wingmate Rock in there for more birds and also gaining more life whenever you attack with your birds, and Windbrisk Raptor for lifelink on all your attacking birds. Deck number 5. Let's look at a pauper deck, shall we? Kangee, Sky Warden. Whenever you attack with Kangee, attacking creatures with flying get +2/+0, and whenever Kangee blocks, blocking flyers get +0/+2 until end of turn. And he has flying and vigilance. So all in all, a solid creature. And some interesting pauper cards that I would include here are, for example, Winged Words, that most of the time simply costs 2 to draw 2 cards. Even stronger card draw would be Keep Watch. If you attack with all your birds, you draw a card for each attacking creature, but if your opponent also has a lot of attacking creatures, you could also cast it while your opponent is attacking. And Stormscape Familiar, since it's also a bird, to reduce our mana that we need for our birds. Next up, let's go Naya, Duskana the Rage Mother. I just love the faces of these bears, they look so surprised, I don't know. Now Duskana you want to play later throughout the game to draw a card for each of your Tempest Hawks on the battlefield, since Tempest Hawk is a 2/2 creature, and all your Tempest Hawks get boosted to a 5/5 while Duskana is on the battlefield. While playing Naya, we're allowed to play Rhythm of the Wild to give our birds either +1/+1 or haste, and our creatures can't be countered, which is another great upside. We can go with a newer card of Full Throttle for double attack phases with our 5/5 birds. This is gonna get out of hand real fast. And as a little protection card, I found Call of the Claw, which I also put into my pre-modern elves deck, very valuable. Since it has flash, and when our opponent wants to wipe the board, we replace all our creatures with 2/2 bear tokens, which is also fitting with Duskana, which are then also boosted again with our commander, and we draw cards for them when we cast Duskana again from our command zone. Speaking of pre-modern, I know we can't build a pre-modern deck with the new Tempest Hawk, but still, here are some older cards which could be interesting in a Kangee Airy Keeper deck or any other white-blue deck that you want to build Tempest Hawk around. We can kick Kangee when we cast him to put feather counters on him, which then boost all our birds by +1/+1 per feather counter. We could put in some proliferate cards as well if we wanted to get those feather counters up even further. But there are also cards like Soulcatcher's Airy, which also collects feather counters to boost our birds even further without our commander having to be out. Celestial Gatekeeper to reanimate 2 of our birds when he's put into the graveyard. And Keeper of the Nine Gales to either remove a obnoxious creature from our opponent or another Tempest Hawk back to our hand if we want to save one of our birds at any time. Or how about a Merkul, Lord of Bones deck, which whenever one of your Tempest Hawks dies, replaces it with a enchantment version of exactly that Tempest Hawk. Now this wonderfully synergizes with Ondo Spirit Dancer to get the double amount of Tempest Hawks, while the color combination also allows us to play Kambal, Profiteering Mayor, to drain our opponents whenever one or more tokens are created. We're also playing token doublers obviously in this deck, while we play Hazel not only for the ramp ability but also to be able to create even more of our enchantment creature Tempest Hawk tokens. 2 more decks, and I hope you enjoyed this video so far. Another pauper idea would be the Watcher of Spheres. You're allowed to play any uncommon as a commander in PDH. I do enjoy rather playing legendary creatures in pauper format, but hey, those are actually the rules, so you are allowed to play that. And why not explore some of the non-legendaries? For 2, you are already playing cheaper Tempest Hawks with this commander, and the Watcher of Spheres even gets boosted whenever you play a Tempest Hawk yourself. Now, some more interesting cards that you could put in there is Curfew, for example, that allows you to return one of your birds or any other creature that you want to save, and each opponent has to do the same. And while we're playing Azorius, we're probably also playing some control cards, so we can counter these creatures again if they really bother us. Remosian Rally is a free boost spell where we can just tap any of our creatures to boost our entire team. And I like Airborne Aid a lot, and I hope you already have your foils in your collection if you're a foil kind of person, since you're now allowed to draw a card for each bird in play. Now the number 10 slot for today's video is Inniaz, the Gale Force, which is a Djinn with flying, which can boost your team by +1/+1 whenever you pay 3 mana into it. And now here's the kicker: whenever you attack with 3 or more flyers, so 3 or more Tempest Hawks in this case, each player has to choose a non-land permanent and gives it to the right of their opponent. And now normally you would just give a Tempest Hawk since you don't really need them, and you hope to get something more interesting. But I love the fact that this just creates some chaos and everyone gets your birds at some point. What else would I put in there? Magus of the Moat, I think, is a beautiful pillow fort card. If you're playing that many flyers, not many other opponents will, except for your flyers if they get them. Errant and Giada for being able to flash your birds from the top of your library in surprise to a attack of an opponent towards you to block with the one or the other more Tempest Hawk, or at the end of turn of an opponent to have even more birds in play when you untap. And I really like Dunal, Herald of Wings in there, since you can just copy your Tempest Hawks as 1/1 spirits, only once each turn, but with Giada you can flash them and you can play even more flash in this deck if you want to go that route. But now I do want to hear from you. Are you excited about Tempest Hawk? Which commanders would you build this deck around, and which 3 cards would you include in this deck? Share your deck ideas in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!